I was standing on the shop floor at 6:15 in the morning, clipboard in hand, checking torque readings on a batch of hydraulic fittings when Pete Larson's assistant came down and told me they needed me upstairs. That's how it always started with Pete. Not a call, not an email. He'd send someone down to get you, like summoning people from the floor was part of the job title. My name is Dale Hutchins. I'm 54 years old. I've spent 25 years in quality systems engineering, the last 20 of them at Pinnacle Fabrication Group in Pittsburgh. I know every machine in this building. I know the vendors, the tolerances, the failure points that don't show up in any manual because someone learned them the hard way 15 years ago and passed it down. That kind of knowledge doesn't come with a certificate. It comes from showing up. I set the clipboard down, told Brenda Wills to finish logging the readings, and headed upstairs. Pete Larson was 37. He had an MBA from a school with a good football team and a management title that came from his father, Hank Larson, who was VP of Operations, and had apparently decided the best use of his remaining career was installing his son one floor below him. Pete was not a bad person. He was just the kind of manager who had never been wrong about anything because he'd never been close enough to anything to be wrong about it. Diane Cruz from HR was already in the conference room when I walked in. She had her legal pad open and her pen in hand, which meant this had been planned. "Dale, thanks for coming up," Pete said, like I'd had a choice. He slid a document across the table. My job description, printed out and highlighted in yellow, across about a third of the page. Coordinate quality documentation, interface with production supervisors, maintain compliance records, support departmental reporting requirements. We need clearer boundaries, Diane said. Her voice was measured, careful, the kind of voice you use when you've rehearsed what you're going to say. Quality issues go through quality. Production decisions go through ops. You've been crossing into areas that aren't within your defined scope. I read the highlighted sections again. Nothing in there about catching a metallurgical deviation before it ships to Caterpillar. Nothing about rerouting a vendor order when a supplier goes dark 2 days before a deadline. Nothing about the $1.8 million quarterly contract I'd kept alive for 4 years by doing exactly what they were now telling me to stop doing. "You want me to stay in my lane," I said. Pete nodded. "Trust the system, Dale. Everyone has a role. We need to respect those boundaries." I looked at him for a moment. He'd been in this building for 2 years. In that time, I could count on one hand the number of times he'd been on the shop floor for longer than a scheduled walkthrough. He didn't know what the system looked like from the inside because he'd never worked inside it. I picked up the pen they'd left on the table, tapped it once against the highlighted paper, set it back down. "Copy that," I said. "I'll follow the job description exactly as written." Diane's shoulders relaxed. Pete got that satisfied look managers get when they think they've resolved something. Neither of them understood what they'd just handed me. I walked out of that conference room and back down to my desk. The fluorescent lights, the industrial carpet, the hum of the HVAC system, all the same as it had been for 20 years, but something had shifted. For 2 decades, I had been the person who stepped in when things went sideways. The person who caught problems before they became crises, who stayed late to fix things that weren't officially his responsibility, who made everyone above him look competent by quietly preventing disasters they never knew were coming. Now, I was officially just a coordinator. Documentation, scheduling interface between departments. Nothing more. Brenda came by my desk around mid-morning. She was one of the good ones, careful, thorough, the kind of QC technician who checked twice even when no one was watching. She leaned against the cubicle partition and lowered her voice. "You hear what happened in the meeting?" "I was in the meeting," I said. She looked at me for a second. "So what does that mean for the floor?" "It means quality handles quality, and I handle my paperwork." She didn't say anything right away. Then, "Dale, half of what keeps us running isn't in anybody's job description." I looked up from my screen. "Then maybe it's time someone figured out whose job it actually is." She walked away looking like she wasn't sure what to make of that. I turned back to my monitor and opened a new folder on my personal laptop, started a document, date, time, attendees, exact language used. 20 years in manufacturing had taught me that when things go wrong, and they always go wrong eventually, the people who gave the orders develop very short memories. I wasn't going to let that happen without a record. That was Tuesday morning. By Wednesday, I was about to find out exactly what happens when a system that only works because one person ignores the rules suddenly has to work by them. Wednesday started like any other day. I was at my desk by 7, coffee in hand, working through delivery schedules and documentation logs. Routine stuff. The kind of work that actually was in my job description. Brenda appeared at my cubicle just before 9. Her face was pale in a way that had nothing to do with the lighting. "Dale, we've got a problem. Batch 7C, the steel load pins staged for the Caterpillar shipment. I ran the torque spec numbers this morning. They're off. Not by a huge margin, but enough. They're already on the dock. In the old version of my life, meaning last Monday, I would have been up from that chair before she finished the sentence. Down to the dock, pull the batch, call the line supervisor, write up the deviation report, get it sorted before the truck arrived. That's what I'd done for 20 years. Not because anyone asked me to, because it needed doing. Instead, I opened the highlighted job description on my screen. Read it the way you read a contract when you want to make sure you're covered. That's a quality department issue, Brenda. You need to escalate through your supervisor. She stared at me. Dale, by the time it goes through proper channels, that shipment is already on a truck to Indiana. Then escalate fast. That's the process they've established. These pins are going into heavy excavation equipment. If the torque spec is wrong and they fail under load. Brenda, I kept my voice level. I coordinate documentation and scheduling. Quality issues are quality's jurisdiction. That's what HR told me in writing with Pete sitting right there. I'm following the directive. She stood there for another few seconds, jaw tight, hoping I'd change my mind. When I didn't, she turned and walked away. I watched her go and picked up my coffee. My hand was steady. I also opened my personal laptop and added an entry to the log, 8:54 a.m. Brenda Wills reported torque spec deviation on batch 7C, load pins, staged for Caterpillar shipment. I directed her to escalate through quality department per HR directive issued Tuesday. Shipment status, pending. The truck left at 11:20. I watched it pull out from the loading bay through the window next to my desk. Didn't feel good about it. Didn't feel bad about it either. I felt like a man who had been told exactly where his lane was and had stayed in it down to the inch. 3 days went by, then the conference room started lighting up. Not my phone, not my desk, the executive suite phones, Pete's assistant running between offices, Diane's door shut tight. By Thursday afternoon, the kind of quiet panic that spreads through an office like smoke had settled over the whole floor. You couldn't see it, but you could feel it. People walking faster than usual. Conversations stopping when you came around a corner. Friday morning, Roy Dunbar's face was on the main screen in the executive conference room. I knew Roy by reputation. Director of supply chain at Caterpillar, 28 years in industrial manufacturing. The kind of man who had built his career on making sure the right parts went into the right machines, and that people who couldn't guarantee that didn't stay on his vendor list for long. He looked like someone had interrupted something important, which they had. The load pins failed pressure testing at the Indiana job site, he said. His voice was flat and deliberate. A site supervisor caught it before installation. We're looking at $210,000 in downtime, equipment standby costs, and expedited replacement parts. And I need to understand how components with an out-of-spec torque rating made it through your quality process. The room was quiet enough that you could hear the air handling system in the ceiling. Pete cleared his throat. Roy, we're conducting a full internal review. Dale here is our senior quality systems lead. He typically manages our technical interface with your procurement team. Every head in the room turned toward me like I'd suddenly become the most interesting thing in it. I recognized the setup. System produces a failure. Find the person closest to the work, point at them. I'd watched it happen to other people for years. I'd always wondered what it felt like to be on the receiving end. Now I knew. It felt exactly like being ready. Actually, I said, and kept my voice as level as a calibrated gauge. Quality system interfaces aren't within my current scope. Per a formal HR directive issued this week, I'm limited to documentation coordination and scheduling support. I slid 3 printed pages across the table. I followed the process exactly as directed. Here's the log. Pete's face went through several expressions in quick succession. Roy leaned forward on his screen. Are you telling me you were aware of a specification deviation and didn't intervene? I'm telling you I was formally instructed to stay within my defined job description boundaries. Quality issues are handled by quality department personnel through established escalation channels. I tapped the pages, dates, times, what was reported, what I did in response, all of it documented. Roy picked up the pages, or rather, someone on his end scanned and sent them over, because 30 seconds later, he was reading from his own copy. He went through it slowly. When he looked up, his expression had shifted from anger to something more like recognition. 28 years in manufacturing means you've seen this movie before. You know when someone is being set up to take a fall. This changes how we need to approach the vendor review, he said. His eyes moved to Pete considerably. After the call ended, I walked back to my desk. Pete appeared at my cubicle 10 minutes later, leaning against the partition with his arms crossed, working for a casual tone he couldn't quite land. Dale, you're making this harder than it needs to be. We're all on the same team. I looked up from my keyboard. Teams usually cover for each other. They don't put directives in writing and then act surprised when someone follows them. His jaw tightened. HR works for the company, Dale. So do you. So does the job description, I said. The one you highlighted. He stood there for a while, running some kind of internal calculation. Then he walked away without another word. I went back to my documentation log and added another entry. That night, I sat at the kitchen table after Carol went to bed. She'd had a rough day. The afternoon medication made her tired, and tired for her meant a different kind of exhaustion than it did for most people. The kind that builds up over months of treatment and doesn't really lift between appointments. She didn't complain. She never did. That was the thing about Carol that had always gotten me. She carried hard things quietly, and she expected you to do the same. Scott's Penn State acceptance letter was still on the refrigerator, held up by a magnet we'd had since a family trip to Niagara Falls 12 years ago. Engineering program, $34,000 a year, including room and board. I'd done that math enough times that I could do it in my sleep. The mortgage had 9 years left. Savings were thin in the way savings get thin when you're paying for someone's ongoing medical care out of pocket, while also trying to act like everything is fine at the dinner table. At 54, losing this job wasn't a setback. It was a real problem. I opened the laptop and kept working on the log. Then I opened a second tab and navigated to the OSHA online reporting portal. What I filed wasn't dramatic. No accusations, no speculation. Just a factual time-stamped account of the falsified tensile testing records I'd been quietly photographing with my personal phone over the past several months. Records that showed components being approved at margins that didn't match the actual test data. I'd started doing it because something felt wrong, and I wanted documentation if things ever came apart. I hadn't planned to use it, but plans change when the people running the system decide the rules only apply to you. I submitted the report and closed the laptop. OSHA wouldn't move fast. Federal agencies rarely do. I figured 4 to 6 weeks before anyone showed up. That was fine. I wasn't in a hurry. The performance improvement plan landed on my desk the following Monday. Diane delivered it herself, which meant it was serious enough that Pete didn't want to do it. The document ran 3 pages. I read it twice. It cited concerns about collaborative engagement, resistance to cross-functional support initiatives, and negative impact on client relationship management. In plain language, we need you to go back to doing 3 jobs for the price of 1, and if you don't, we'll have paperwork showing it was your fault. This is about the Caterpillar incident, I said. This is about a pattern of behavior, Diane said. We've documented a shift in your approach to team collaboration over the past week. You gave me a directive. I followed it. Caterpillar had a quality failure. Quality owns quality failures. Pete leaned forward with the expression people use when they're about to say something they've practiced. Dale, you used to be someone this team could count on, someone who stepped up when the business needed it. Now you're being transactional. I'd heard that word used before, always by people who wanted something for free and were annoyed that you'd noticed. In their vocabulary, transactional meant you expected fair compensation for skilled work. It meant you'd stopped donating your expertise and started acting like a professional. Apparently, that was a character flaw worth documenting. If you want collaboration, put it in the job description, I said. If you want me handling quality system interfaces, update my scope and my pay grade to match. Until then, I'm following what's written. Diane's pen clicked against the table. Dale, we need you to demonstrate willingness to support the business beyond narrow role definitions. I am supporting the business by following the processes and boundaries you established in writing. With witnesses, I set my copy of the original directive on the table next to the PIP. If those processes don't work, the problem isn't me following them. The room went quiet. I could see both of them recalculating, looking for an angle that made me the problem in the story they were trying to tell. But the math was simple. They'd built the fence. I'd stayed inside it. What happened outside it wasn't on me. What happens if I don't sign? I asked. Refusing to participate in the improvement process would be considered insubordination, Diane said. There it was. Sign up to be their unpaid fixer again, or get fired for not agreeing to it. The kind of choice that isn't really a choice. I picked up the pen, held it for a moment. I need to review this with legal counsel, I said, and set the pen back down. I'll respond within the standard 5-day review period. Pete's face tightened. Dale, this is a straightforward performance discussion. There's nothing here that requires, I'm 54 years old with 20 years of documented performance reviews and a formal HR directive issued 8 days ago that directly contradicts the expectations in this document. I'd like to make sure I understand my rights before I sign anything. I stood up and gathered the papers. I'll be in touch before the deadline. 2 weeks later, I was back in the same conference room. Different document on the table this time. Workforce restructuring, Diane said. We're eliminating the operations quality coordination role effective immediately. The responsibilities will be redistributed across existing departmental functions. Pete nodded like he was delivering good news about a budget surplus. It's about streamlining more efficient allocation of resources. I looked at the severance package. 2 weeks of pay. Health coverage through the end of the month. Standard release forms. The usual way of saying, we're done with you. Please sign here confirming you won't cause us problems. So this position doesn't exist anymore, I said. We're integrating those functions into other departments, Diane said. I almost said something about how funny it was that a role they'd just described as outside its lane was now being split across multiple departments. But I didn't. I'd learned a long time ago that the most powerful thing you can do in a room full of people who've already made their decision is say as little as possible. I'll need to review this with counsel, I said. Same as before. I collected the papers and walked out. My badge stopped working at 5 p.m. 20 years, and they cut the access like an expired subscription. I drove home, made dinner, sat with Carol while she had her evening tea. Didn't say anything about it until she asked how my day was, and even then I kept it simple. She'd carry enough. This one was mine to carry tonight. At 8:22 p.m., my phone rang. Illinois area code I didn't recognize. Dale Hutchins, speaking. This is Roy Dunbar, Caterpillar Supply Chain. A pause. Office noise in the background. Phones, movement. The sound of a place with actual work happening. I heard about your situation at Pinnacle. Word travels fast. In this industry it does. Especially when the word involves a vendor qualification review and an HR directive that reads like a liability document. Another pause. I'm going to be direct with you. The audit we ran after the Indiana incident didn't stop at the load pins. We pulled 6 months of incoming inspection records from Pinnacle. What we found wasn't a one-time spec deviation. It was a pattern, approved components that shouldn't have been approved, testing records that don't match the actual data. I didn't say anything. I already knew most of what he was describing. I'd been watching it happen for months before I started photographing it. We need someone who can come in, assess the full system, and fix it from the ground up, Roy said. Not a consulting firm with a methodology deck. Someone who actually knows what quality looks like on a shop floor. Someone who understands that when these parts fail, they don't fail in a test lab. They fail on a job site with people standing next to them. What's the scope? I asked. 10 months, full supplier quality systems review, remediation, and process rebuild. You'd report directly to me. No committees, no internal politics, no Pete Larson. Rate, $24,000 a month. I did the math without reaching for a calculator. $240,000 over 10 months. More than 3 years of my Pinnacle salary. Enough to cover Scott's first 2 years at Penn State, fund Carol's treatment plan through next spring, and make a real dent in the mortgage for the first time in years. When do you need an answer? I asked. I was hoping right now. I looked around the kitchen. The Penn State letter on the refrigerator. Carol's pill organizer on the counter next to the coffee maker. The stack of medical billing statements I'd been filing in a folder. I tried not to open more than once a week. Mr. Dunbar, I said, you've got yourself a contractor. The paperwork arrived by courier the next morning. 6 pages, clean, direct language. Scope of work, timeline, compensation, authority level, no performance improvement checkpoints, no collaborative engagement metrics. No language about exceeding role boundaries when business needs require. Just a problem that needed fixing and a rate for fixing it. By noon, Pete was calling my cell. Dale, I'm hearing you're in discussions with Caterpillar. I need you to understand any work you perform for them has to be coordinated through Pinnacle. We hold that vendor relationship. I let him finish. Pete, I said, I don't work for Pinnacle. You eliminated my position. Remember? That doesn't mean you can just walk into our client relationships and I'm a private contractor. If you have questions about how that works legally, your counsel can explain it. Caterpillar sent a formal notification to Pinnacle that afternoon. Any interference with my engagement would be classified as a vendor performance issue and factored into their ongoing supplier qualification review. In industrial contracting, that kind of language doesn't get ignored. Pete didn't call back. 3 weeks into the engagement, OSHA investigators showed up at Pinnacle's Pittsburgh facility. The tip I'd filed had worked its way through the system on the standard federal timeline, about 5 weeks from submission to first contact. The timing wasn't something I'd engineered. It was just what happens when multiple problems that have been ignored long enough all come due at once. Caterpillar's audit from one direction. Federal investigators from the other. Pinnacle spent the next 2 months burning through legal fees and management hours trying to manage both simultaneously. Pete was in damage control meetings most of the week, according to people I still knew in the building. Hank Larson, his father and the VP who had handed him the title, was reportedly not handling the situation with much grace. I was in Peoria, rebuilding a supplier qualification framework from scratch, getting paid by the hour to do exactly the kind of work I'd been doing for free in Pittsburgh for 2 decades. 4 months in, Roy walked me through their updated metrics. Defect rates down 76%. Return shipments nearly eliminated. The Indiana job site had been fully remediated and was back on schedule. You know, what's different about you compared to every other outside resource we've brought in? Roy said. What's that? You already know what a bad part looks like before it fails. You're not learning the industry. You're working in it? That's the part they never understood at Pinnacle, I said. The experience isn't in the certification. It's in the years. The final invoice cleared 10 months later, $240,000, paid on schedule, no disputes, the week before Pete had called one last time. His voice had changed, smaller, less certain of itself. The MBA confidence was still there, but it was doing less work than it used to. Dale, look, we're going through a transition period. Lost some accounts. There's some consulting work we might need support on. Nothing formal, just, I'm booked through next year, I said. Good luck with the transition. I hung up and went back to the report I was finishing for Roy. 6 months after my engagement ended, Pinnacle lost the Caterpillar contract entirely. Too many quality failures, too many process gaps. They brought in 2 people to split the work I'd been doing alone, paid them combined nearly 40% more than my old salary, and still couldn't hold the standards I'd maintained. Hank Larson took early retirement under board pressure. Pete, last I heard, was interviewing. They never did figure out that the system hadn't failed because I left. The system had always been failing. I'd just been the one standing between it and the consequences. Here's what I know now that I wish someone had told me at 35. Your expertise is not loyalty. It's a skill set with a market value. The moment you start giving it away because you feel responsible for people who don't feel responsible for you, you teach them it costs nothing, and they will price it accordingly, right up until the day it walks out the door. They'll call you difficult when you stop. They'll call you transactional. They'll write it into a performance improvement plan and act like expecting fair exchange for 2 decades of skilled work is something you should be ashamed of. Let them write it. Sign nothing. Document everything. Because somewhere out there is a Roy Dunbar who has watched enough systems fail to recognize the person who actually kept one running. And when he finds you, he won't ask you to be flexible about your boundaries. He'll hand you a contract and ask when you can start. The company that built a fence around your job title will call it betrayal. The market will call it business, and you'll call it the best thing that ever happened the day they told you to stop fixing things.